Welcome to the Manassas Regional Airport's non-movement training course. The purpose of this course is to ensure that those individuals requiring non-movement area access are properly trained to operate on the airport safely and in accordance with the airport's rules and regulations. Access to the airport and operating on the non-movement area is a privilege and may be revoked at any time. The Manassas Regional Airport is a general aviation airport and a designated reliever airport for the Washington, D.C. metro area. The airport is home to a variety of operations: flight schools, maintenance stations, charter companies, research and development firms, and full-service fixed-based operators. General aviation airports like Manassas do not offer any scheduled airline service. Driving on the airport is different than driving on the road. Activity on an airport is very fluid and involves a lot of moving parts. While you may have had experience driving on other airports, you should not become complacent, as each airport is designed differently and has a varying degree of activities. Safety should be your top priority. Airport Basics. All areas inside the airport perimeter fence make up the Airport Operations Area, or AOA. This includes runways, taxiways, aprons, and tenant ramp areas. The AOA is divided into two basic areas: movement areas and non-movement areas. Movement areas are designed for the movement of aircraft under the guidance of the Air Traffic Control Tower, or ATCT. To enter that movement area, you must have permission from the ATCT. An example of movement areas includes runways, taxiways, safety areas, and run-up blocks. Please note, all run-up blocks except for the runway 16 left run-up block are in the movement area. Additional training and airport authorization are required in order to operate on the movement area. Completion of this course does not automatically grant you access to the movement area. Non-movement areas are all other areas inside the AOA of the airport, not under the control of the ATCT. You do not need permission from the ATCT to operate on a non-movement area. However, you must have a valid ID badge or be escorted by an individual who is badged. Examples of non-movement areas include hangar alleyways, taxi lanes, air carrier and general aviation aprons, interior service roads, and the runway 16 left run-up block. Aircraft, whether under power or being towed, and emergency vehicles always have the right of way. Taxi lanes and apron areas are not meant for vehicle convenience. All vehicles should utilize public roads or areas outside of the AOA to get to your destination on the airport. Airport markings. The dividing line between the movement area and the non-movement area is represented by a single solid line along with a single set of dashed yellow lines. This set of markings are called the non-movement area boundary marking. When positioned on the solid line side of the marking or the non-movement area, clearance is required for you to enter the movement area. You must have permission from Air Traffic Control Tower, or ATCT, in order to proceed. If you find yourself on the other side of this marking, proceed through the dashes. Remember, stop at the solid, move through the dashes. If you are positioned on this marking, you have already entered the movement area and may have caused a surface deviation. Taxiways, which are in the movement area, are used by aircraft to get to and from the ramp and the runways. Taxiways have a single yellow solid center line and blue edge lights. Authorization is required to operate on taxiways. Taxi lanes, which are in non-movement areas, are used by aircraft to transition from taxiways to apron parking areas. Taxi lanes have a single yellow solid center line, double solid edge lines, but no edge lights. The dividing line between a taxiway and a runway is represented by double solid yellow lines with two sets of dashed lines. These markings are called holding position markings. This is considered the outer limits of the runway environment. Taxiways leading to a runway will have enhanced centerline markings coupled with a surface-painted hold position sign. All holding position markings are paired with a mandatory instruction sign to the left of the taxiway. You must always have permission from the ATCT prior to crossing the solid line side of the marking. Remember, move through the dashes, stop at the solids. If you are positioned on this marking, you have entered the runway environment and may have caused a runway incursion. Runways are designated for the landing and takeoff of aircraft. They are marked with white numbers at each end called designators, white dashed center lines, and solid white lines on the edges. All runways at Manassas Airport have threshold markings, which are a series of 6 to 8 white bars located at the approach end of the runway. Runway 16 left is considered the precision runway, which has additional markings that may be different than the other runways. These additional markings are called touchdown zone markings and aiming points. Runway lighting is an important indicator on a runway. Runways are marked with white lights. Two-sided lights, amber and white, are used on the last 2,000 feet of an instrument runway. At the end of the runway, you may see runway threshold lights, two-sided red and green lights. If you see amber or red lights, you may be approaching the end of the runway. If you are unsure of your location on the airport, stay close to buildings, and generally you will not be in an area you are not supposed to be. Airfield signage. Like roadways, there are sign systems in place on an airport. They tell you where you are and where to go. There are 6 types of airfield signs at Manassas: mandatory instruction, location, boundary, direction, destination, and runway distance remaining. Mandatory instruction signs have white letters on a red background. Pilots and vehicle operators must have instructions from the ATCT for the appropriate action at these signs. In this example, you are holding position at runway 34 right at taxiway Bravo 5 and need clearance from the ATCT in order to proceed on to runway 34 right. These signs are always associated with a required action. Location signs have yellow letters with a yellow border on a black background and use letter number combinations for designators. They indicate taxiway location and runway location. They tell you where you are. Boundary signs have black inscriptions on a yellow background. They indicate boundary limits of a runway safety area or an ILS critical area. They tell you when you are clear of a specific area. Direction signs have black letters with a yellow background with an arrow noting the direction of the approaching taxiway. These signs indicate directions to other taxiways immediately leading out of an intersection. They tell you where to go. Destination signs are similar to direction signs in that they provide general direction information to a location on the airport. They also have yellow letters with a black background with an arrow noting the direction of the location. The airport has FBO destination signs located near Taxiway Echo and Foxtrot. Runway distance remaining signs have white letters with a black background. They are located on runway 16 left, 34 right, and indicates how many feet are left on the runway. They are designated in thousands of feet. Now that you are familiar with how the airport looks, the next sections will talk about your responsibilities as a vehicle operator. Vehicle operations and responsibilities. While operating on the airport, you are required to be vigilant and be mindful of your surroundings. The airport has a lot of moving pieces, so it's important to free yourself of distractions while inside the AOA, so safety can be put at the forefront. Never drive on the AOA while using a cell phone, texting, or engaging in unnecessary conversations. When possible, all vehicles operating on the airport should have a window cracked down to assist in hearing. Vehicle radios should be turned off or to a low volume in order to hear approaching or passing aircraft. Operating aircraft may not always be visible and may approach from above. Don't be distracted on the airport. The speed limit for all vehicles inside of the AOA is 15 miles per hour. Driving at slower speeds allows for increased awareness and maneuvering should you be required to act. Reckless driving may result in the loss of driving privileges on the airport. Obey all signs and traffic signals outside of the airport and note the posted speed limits along the public roads. Scooters, bicycles, personal assistive mobility devices, and skateboards are not allowed inside the AOA. Strollers and wheelchairs can be used for the intended purpose as a means of transporting children and individuals. When driving in inclement weather, be extra cautious about your surroundings. Drive at a reduced speed and give yourself plenty of time to get to your destination. Always utilize public roads or areas outside of the AOA to get to your destination on the airport. Vehicles operating on the airport must be maintained in sound mechanical condition to prevent breakdowns and excessive leaking of fluids. All headlights, tail lights, turn signals, and brake lights. If a vehicle is noted as disabled, abandoned, or illegally parked, the airport may remove vehicles at the owner or operator's expense. All support vehicles operating on aprons and taxi lanes, including fuel trucks, golf carts, crew cars, forklifts, baggage carts, and tugs, shall be equipped with an operational flashing beacon. Beacons must be visible from all directions and be flashing yellow. Support vehicles shall also be properly marked with a vehicle identifier and adequately visible at night. Personal vehicles operating inside the AOA must have their hazard lights on at all times. Know the signs of a starting or moving aircraft. Aircraft are equipped with lighting systems to indicate their location and operation. Anti-collision lights indicate that the pilot is getting ready to start the aircraft or the aircraft is already operating. They are flashing white or red lights located on the tail or body of the aircraft. Landing lights, which are solid white, are used for taxiing, takeoff, or landing. They are located on the front or wings of an aircraft. Position lights give an indication on the orientation of the aircraft. They are solid red or green, located on the tips of the wings. Aircraft moving or under tow always have the right of way. Be careful and maintain a safe distance when working around parked aircraft. Aircraft cockpit windows are designed for pilots to see other aircraft. It can be difficult or impossible for the flight crew of large aircraft to see vehicles, particularly behind the wings and directly below the cockpit. When it is safe, make yourself visible in front of the aircraft. Do not proceed behind a running aircraft, as this can result in injuries or damage to your vehicle. Vehicles shall not be driven within 25 feet of an aircraft unless directly involved in servicing. When operating at night, display your front and back tail lights and keep your headlights on low beam. Allow yourself extra time and drive slower than normal. All drivers should display extra courtesy to taxiing aircraft by angling their vehicles so that headlight beams do not directly impact cockpit areas. It takes approximately 30 minutes for pilots to adjust to night conditions. When an aircraft is taxiing right to left, vehicle operators will see a red light. Vehicles should stop, wait for the aircraft to finish crossing, then proceed to their destination. When an aircraft is taxiing left to right, vehicle operators will see a green light. Vehicles can proceed with caution. Always assume that if the aircraft lights are on, that it is in operation. If you are unsure of an aircraft's movement, stop, assess the situation, then proceed accordingly. Airfield safety and security. As a certificated airport, Manassas is required to operate on-site aircraft rescue and firefighting services, or ARF. While operating on the airport, watch and listen for lights and sirens from ARF vehicles and other emergency equipment. Emergency vehicles, like aircraft, have the right of way. Do not block or park in front of vehicle gates, as this may impede on the response time of mutual aid responders. If you witness an accident or experience an emergency, contact 911, then notify airport operations and stay clear of the scene. Airport operations can be reached at 703-361-5488. No person shall access the airport through vehicle gates unless he or she is in possession of a valid ID badge or is under the direct escort of a valid badge holder. When entering or exiting the AOA through a vehicle gate, stop, turn on, or if exiting, turn off your beacon or hazards. Allow the gate to completely close, then proceed to your destination. Only one person is allowed to pass through an open gate at a time, unless they are being escorted. No one shall piggyback through an airport gate. If a gate fails to close or there is a break in perimeter fencing, stop, remain at the gate and contact airport operations. Do not leave a gate unattended until it is secured or you are relieved by airport operations. Watch out for suspicious individuals, vehicles, or trucks. If you see something, do something. Call 911 first, then notify airport operations. If it is a non-emergency issue, contact Manassas City Police at 703-257-8000. Foreign object debris, or FOD, can ruin an aircraft engine, cause personal injury, or even destroy an aircraft. Anything that does not belong inside the AOA can be considered FOD. This can be tools, parts, trash, debris, household items, and even dead animals. Check in and around your vehicle for debris that may become loose while driving around the AOA. It is everyone's responsibility to clean as you go. If there is FOD on the movement area or any area you are not authorized, report FOD to airport operations at 703-361-5488. Smoking or vaping inside the AOA, hangars, shops, or other buildings with flammable liquids is strictly prohibited. Please utilize designated areas outside of the AOA. The airport is overall responsible for the environmental compliance of all operations on the AOA. If you experience a spill or see a spill, attempt to stop the leak at its source, then conduct the appropriate cleanup. Petroleum products left on pavement or concrete can cause lasting damage to the surface and can cause future safety issues. It is a requirement that all spills of any size are reported to the appropriate agencies. Any spill over 1 quart must be reported to airport operations along with a spill report. If the spill is suspected to be over 5 gallons, immediately contact 911, then contact airport operations. Airport operations can be reached at 703-361-5488. Vehicle pedestrian deviations and violations. Vehicle pedestrian deviations are defined as a pedestrian or vehicle entering any portion of the airport movement areas, such as runways and taxiways, without authorization from the Air Traffic Control Tower, or ATCT. Vehicle pedestrian deviations are divided into 2 categories: runway incursions and surface incidents. Runway incursions are defined as any occurrence at an aerodrome involving the incorrect presence of an aircraft, vehicle, or person on the protected area of a surface designated for the landing and takeoff of aircraft. Runways are meant for aircraft use, unless you have proper clearance from the ATCT and are properly trained to do so. Let's look at an example of a runway incursion. A tug operator is relocating an aircraft from the west apron to the east apron. They are properly badged and trained to be on the movement area. They contact the ATCT to get clearance from the west apron to the east apron. The ATCT gives them clearance.
Manassas Ground, Airport Tug 1. Airport Tug 1, Manassas Ground. Airport Tug 1 is on the west apron holding short of Alpha on Quebec with an aircraft in tow. I would like to relocate to the east apron. Roger, Airport Tug 1. Proceed to the east apron via Alpha Alpha 1. Hold short of runway 16 right at Alpha 1. Proceeding via Alpha Alpha 1. Hold short of 16 right via Alpha 1.
Even though the tug operator used the crossed phraseology, they failed to hold short of runway 16 right. Even though there was no aircraft inbound to runway 16 right, this still counts as a runway incursion, as the tug operator was not cleared to cross runway 16 right. Surface incidents are defined as unauthorized or unapproved movement within the designated movement area, excluding runway incursions, or an occurrence in that same area associated with the operation of an aircraft that affects or could affect the safety of flight. Let's look at an example of a surface deviation. This person is walking around on the east apron of the airport. They are inside the AOA because they have a friend who is performing their first solo flight in an aircraft. They are properly badged with training on both the movement area and the non-movement area. The individual wants to get a photo of the aircraft departure, so they decide to walk through the grass area onto taxiway Bravo. Even though the individual had received training in both the movement area and non-movement area, they did not contact the ATCT prior to entering the movement area, which resulted in a surface deviation. Any individual or organization involved in a vehicle pedestrian deviation or in violation of the airport's rules and regulations will receive a notice of violation, NOV, from the airport. Depending on the severity or frequency of the violation, the individual or organization will be administered penalties, which may include, but is not limited to, fines, cancellation of a lease or franchise agreement, revocation of badge access, federal or civil charges, or a ban from the airport. ID badges and responsibilities. Upon passing this course, you may be eligible to apply for an ID badge. ID badges for non-movement area access are valid 1 year from the date of your birthday. Drivers operating vehicles on the AOA must have a valid ID badge and a valid driver's license issued by a recognized state or municipal agency. ID badges must be worn at all times while inside the AOA. It must be predominantly displayed on the outermost clothing above the waist and below the neck, using a lanyard, clip, or a clear display pocket. New and renewal badges all require a fee to issue, which is posted on the airport's website, flyhef.com. Badges that are stolen require a police report in order to be issued a replacement badge. Should you no longer require an ID badge or your employment has been terminated, your ID badge must be returned to the airport. Failure to return an issued ID badge will result in a fine. ID badges are a privilege and are issued to a single individual. Never lend out your badge. Failure to comply with the airport rules and regulations, lease or franchise agreement, or federal airport security regulations may result in privileges being suspended or revoked. Badge holders, tenants, and franchise holders are responsible for any visitor or employee who enters the airfield under their escort. Prior to entering the AOA, badge holders must brief visitors under their escort about what they can and cannot do. Visitors must always have an operational need to be on the AOA, be under your sight and voice control, be at a reasonable distance, and must follow your directions. Escorted individuals should be limited to 5 people per badge holder. Additional escorts may be required if you have a larger group. Individuals with escort privileges are responsible for the actions of their visitors while in the AOA. The SIDA, or the Security Identification Area, is a portion of the airport which requires additional security procedures and includes the secured area. These areas are clearly marked and require additional training and permission to enter. Individuals authorized to be in the SIDA, or sterile area, will have different ID badges than those authorized for the AOA. As a badge holder, you are required to challenge other individuals in the AOA or the SIDA area. A challenge is a request to see their ID badge that allows that person to be in the airport. If an individual does not have a valid ID badge and is not under escort, contact airport operations immediately. Review and conclusion. Let's summarize what was covered in the non-movement area training. All areas inside the airport perimeter fence make up the Airport Operations Area, or AOA. Non-movement area boundary markings have a single solid line and single set of dash lines. Don't cross the solid line at any time. Be aware of the different type of signage around the airport. Red signs are mandatory instruction and require authorization in order to proceed. Stay close to buildings and away from blue taxiway lights. This will ensure you won't find yourself in an area you are not authorized. Taxi lanes are not meant for convenience. Vehicles should utilize public roads outside of the AOA to get to their destination on the airport. All support vehicles must operate with a flashing beacon and be marked appropriately. Personal vehicles must have operational hazards on at all times. The speed limit inside the AOA is 15 miles per hour. Aircraft, whether under power or being towed, and ARF vehicles always have the right of way. Vehicles must wait till a gate completely closes before proceeding. ID badge holders must display their badge at all times and are always responsible for visitors under their escort. Be sure that if you see something, say something, but more importantly, do something. Drive safely and be aware of your surroundings. This concludes the airport's non-movement area training course. Please proceed to the non-movement training test.